Welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at how one player has completely changed the way an entire professional league does business. Caitlin Clark hasn't just transformed the Indiana Fever, she's forced every WNBA franchise, every arena, and even the league office to rethink how they build a schedule, sell tickets, and plan for a season. And now, after an injury-hit 2025, we're seeing a major shift in how teams handle the Caitlin Clark effect going into 2026. If you followed the WNBA over the last couple of years, you already know what happens when Caitlin Clark comes to town. It stops feeling like a regular season night and starts feeling like an event. Teams move games out of their smaller home arenas into NBA buildings, ticket prices jump, you see more media, more celebrities courtside, and suddenly that one game is the biggest date in that city's basketball calendar. During the 2025 season, it reached another level. 9 of the Indiana Fever's road games were moved to larger alternate sites specifically because of Caitlin Clark and the demand around her. That's not normal, that's superstar impact. Those moved games averaged over 15,000 fans in the building, which is enormous for the WNBA. To put it in perspective, that's about 4,000 more people than other teams were pulling for their alternate site games. When the Fever were in town, arenas weren't just full, they were overflowing. But that kind of hype comes with risk, and 2025 also gave teams a reality check. Caitlin's season was disrupted by injuries, and suddenly the league had this awkward situation. Franchises had built entire marketing campaigns, ticket pushes, and high-profile venue upgrades around one player who wasn't always guaranteed to be on the floor. Fans were buying tickets months in advance, circling those dates on their calendars, and then finding out she might not play or would be limited. That's the backdrop for what we're seeing now with the 2026 WNBA schedule. On paper, you'd think the league would keep cranking up the alternate site strategy, especially with buzz still high around Caitlin Clark, the Fever, and the league's overall growth. And in some ways, they have. The total number of alternate site games across the WNBA has actually expanded to 19, so the league is clearly still interested in moving games to bigger arenas and testing new markets. But here's the twist. The Indiana Fever's road games are not being moved at nearly the same rate. After 9 such games in 2025, that number is dropped to just 4 ahead of the 2026 season. That's a dramatic change. The league is using more alternate sites overall, but they're not building as many of those events around Caitlin Clark specifically anymore. That tells you a lot. Teams haven't stopped viewing Clark as a draw. She's still the league's biggest ticket, but they're obviously taking her injury history and overall availability more seriously now. Franchises are less willing to put all their eggs in one basket, move to the biggest arena in town, load up on promotions, and then have to explain to fans why the face of the league is in street clothes. Think about it from a business point of view. If you're a franchise, moving a game to a larger venue isn't just a fun idea, it's a financial commitment. You're negotiating a one-off rental deal, bringing in extra staffing, marketing like crazy, and usually charging premium prices. It's absolutely worth it when you know Caitlin Clark is healthy and available, but if there's even a question mark, suddenly that move looks a lot riskier. That's exactly what 2025 exposed, and 2026 is the adjustment. At the same time, it's not just about Clark. The WNBA itself is changing. 2 new franchises are now part of this conversation, the Toronto Tempo and the Portland Fire. These expansion teams are a big reason the alternate site slate has grown, and they represent a different kind of experiment for the league. Toronto especially is leaning into this idea of using alternate sites strategically. The Toronto Tempo have 5 home games scheduled outside their primary arena in Canada. That's a major test by the WNBA to see how deep the demand really is across different Canadian markets. It shows the league is thinking beyond just one superstar and trying to grow women's basketball across an entire country. Every time the Tempo go to a different Canadian city for a home game, that's new fans, new corporate partners, and new media attention. Portland Fire also helped drive that growth. Even without a ton of detail, you can already see their presence changing the landscape. More teams means more games, more dates to fill, and more chances to try new venues. When you add all that up, it's no surprise the overall number of alternate site games went up. The difference now is that those big-ticket experimental games are being spread around the league instead of just orbiting around the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark. Still, make no mistake, the Fever remain the WNBA's marquee attraction. Even with fewer games being relocated specifically because of her, Caitlin Clark is still at the center of the league's popularity. The 2026 season is shaping up to be a test of something deeper, though. It's about how the WNBA adapts when even its most marketable star carries some uncertainty. How do you plan a schedule, promote big games, and keep momentum going in a league that's more reliant on individual stars than ever before, but also more aware than ever that those stars aren't invincible? That's where Clark's rehab and comeback become just as important as any scheduling chart. Her health isn't just a medical update, it's a business factor, a marketing factor, and a competitive factor all at once. And lately, the signs on the basketball side have been very encouraging. Caitlin Clark has been ramping back up, and in the process, strengthening her chemistry with Aaliyah Boston, the other young centerpiece of that Indiana Fever. Those two are the foundation of that franchise's future, and we're already starting to see what they can look like when both are right physically. Both Clark and Boston were part of the USA basketball training camp in December, which immediately set off alarms, in a good way, for fans wondering how they might fit onto a future Team USA roster.
That camp wasn't just a box to check. It was the first real look at Clark in a high-level environment after a year plus where, as everyone knows, she simply didn't get to play a lot of basketball. That's where Sue Bird's perspective becomes really interesting. She's seen everything at the international level and in the WNBA, so when she points someone out, it matters. Who really stands out to me is Aaliyah Boston, Sue Bird said. Aaliyah Boston looks great right now. She looked great in USA camp. She's now really found her game. I thought Clark, looked great, right? I mean, here's a player that didn't get to play this summer. All in, she didn't get to play a lot of basketball really in the last year plus, so for this to be the first day back, she looked great. Coming from a legend like Bird, that's not empty praise. It's a real endorsement of what Boston and Clark are building, not just for the Fever, but potentially for Team USA. Boston being described as someone who's found her game at camp is big. It suggests she's no longer just reacting to the pro level, she's dictating it. And Clark being called out for looking great after missing so much time tells you her rhythm is coming back faster than some people might have expected. Now layer that on top of the international calendar. The FIBA Basketball World Cup is set for Berlin from August 31st to September 16th. If Clark and Boston are indeed part of Team USA, that puts them right in the middle of a packed, high-stress, high-travel stretch that bleeds directly into the WNBA's most important part of the year. The 2026 WNBA playoffs are scheduled to begin on September 27th. That's barely a window between playing deep into a World Cup on foreign soil and then turning around and trying to win a championship at home. For the Fever and any other team that might have key players on Team USA or other national squads, that creates a really tricky balancing act. On one side, you absolutely want your stars representing their country. It's a point of pride, it raises their profile, and it draws more attention back to the WNBA. International success has historically helped boost women's basketball visibility, but from a purely strategic standpoint, it's a nightmare. You have to prepare for the possibility that your best players aren't just missing chunks of training time, they're playing tons of high-intensity minutes overseas, dealing with travel, jet lag, and the emotional drain of a major tournament. That's where the scheduling piece comes full circle. If you're a WNBA team deciding whether to move a late-season home game to a bigger arena, you have to ask, will my stars even be in the lineup? Will they be rested? Are they at risk for being on minutes restrictions because they just carried a heavy load for Team USA? It's not just about Clark's old injury history anymore. It's about how much you can realistically get out of her and players like Boston in a summer that now includes both the WNBA grind and a World Cup run. This is also why you see more caution across the board when it comes to building around one attraction. If a franchise gambles on upgrading a venue for a game that falls right after the World Cup and Caitlin Clark is limited, fans are going to feel it. They're not paying premium prices, rearranging their schedules, and showing up early just for the logo. They want to see the superstar on the court, playing heavy minutes, delivering the wow moments they've seen all over social media and highlight reels. So even as the league still leans on star power, because let's be honest, the Caitlin Clark effect is real, and the Indiana Fever remain must-watch WNBA basketball, there's clearly a new layer of risk management in how these decisions get made. That's what you see reflected in the numbers. fewer Clark-driven alternate site games for 2026, even while the total number of alternate sites grows thanks to expansion and broader experiments. At the same time, this is not all doom and gloom. In a way, it's a sign of maturity for the league. The WNBA is learning how to both ride the wave of a superstar like Caitlin Clark and protect itself from becoming too dependent on her availability. By spreading more of the alternate site games across teams like the Toronto Tempo and Portland Fire, and by trying out more markets, they're diversifying the league's appeal. That's healthy long-term. And for fans, there's still plenty of reason to be excited. A healthier Caitlin Clark paired with an ascending Aaliyah Boston is exactly the kind of duo that can push the Fever into legitimate title conversation. Add in the possibility of both of them suiting up for Team USA at the FIBA Basketball World Cup in Berlin, and you've got a summer where their names will be everywhere. WNBA news, international basketball coverage, social media, you name it. The big question hanging over all of this is how her return will shape not just the Fever season, but the overall feel of the 2026 WNBA campaign. Will we see attendance spikes again every time the Fever hit the road, even without as many games being moved to huge arenas? Will teams regret not scheduling more Clark-focused alternate sites if Clark comes back in full force and dominates? Or will they look smart in spreading out the big events and not putting all the pressure on one player's health and schedule? Fans and franchises will be watching every step of the way, every update on Caitlin Clark's health, every sign of progress in her chemistry with Aaliyah Boston, every hint from USA Basketball about World Cup rosters. All of it feeds into how the league thinks about marketing, venue upgrades, and postseason planning. What's undeniable is that Caitlin Clark has already done something rare. She's forced an entire league to rethink how it operates, from the calendar to the arenas to the way it packages its biggest nights. The Indiana Fever might still be the WNBA's main attraction, but 2026 is giving us a new chapter, one where excitement, growth, and caution all have to coexist. Let me know what you think. Did the league play it too safe by cutting back on Clark-centered alternate site games for 2026? Or is this exactly the kind of smart adjustment you want to see after an injury-heavy year and with a World Cup looming? And how big of a jump are you expecting from the Caitlin Clark-Aaliyah Boston duo once both are fully back in rhythm? Drop your thoughts in the comments, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the latest WNBA news and updates on Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever, and Team USA, and we'll keep breaking down how this new era of women's basketball keeps evolving.